And here is what those should kind of look at. So I know you can't like check your work beautifully up here, but here's what I want to ask. Do you have one plotted way over here in the corner?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's probably in the right spot. If it's in that general like little hook up there of the lake. Do you have one down here that's in between these two pointy parts?
Yes.
Then that's pretty good. And then how about one here on this like this general area? And then do you have this one way up here?
Yeah.
And then do you have a clump of them in this general area? And none anywhere else? Then you probably did it right. So were you off maybe a little bit differently than I was maybe, but as long as in general you've got the 1, 2, 3, 4 that are scattered and they're in about the right spot, and then a huge clump of them here, I'm guessing you did pretty good. You at least got the general idea of it. Anybody who was here have any questions on any of those, or one of yours is like way off? All right, well then I guess what we're going to do is move on. If you notice on the board, so I already heard somebody say we have another test. Yeah, we're already done with latitude and longitude pretty much. We're going to have another fairly short test on Thursday. I'm not going to be here on Thursday, so we probably could have had the test on Wednesday, but we might as well match up me not being here with the day we're taking a test. So I won't be here on Thursday. You'll take another pretty short test. Speaking of tests, test corrections are due tomorrow. If anybody is planning on redoing the test, remember it's a guaranteed 10 points higher. All right, so that was all that's on the board. This whole packet, we're going to have a test on this on Thursday. We're pretty much done with it. We have just a couple more things to do real quick. As you can also see on the board, I listed your homework. And your homework is pages 14 and 15. I seem to have lost my page 14.
Huh?
14, did you rip out a page? No, I told you to rip out page 11, and pages 13 and 14 were supposed to remain in your packet. That is what I did tell you last Friday. Yeah, over on this blue bin, go ahead. All right, so 14 and 15 will be your homework. There is 18 questions. That's a little bit more than I usually give you. So my plan is to give you like 10 minutes at the end of class to start your homework so that you don't have to do 18 questions for homework. But in the meantime, we're going to move on to page 16. And we're talking time zones. Let me start off with, do you guys know there are time zones?
Oh, I know.
Okay.
I was garbage.
Okay, but we're getting into something you're more comfortable with? Okay, so you know there's time zones, right? What do we already know for sure? We actually already covered it earlier this chapter, like last week. What? So we know that there are different places have different time zones. So we established, we know there are time zones.
Like California, 3 hours.
Okay, so you won't know off the top of your head. And by the way, that's not something you need to know off the top of your head. Do you know somebody in California or something? Okay, so is that why you know off the top of your head?
Well, that and I worked there like 4 years.
Okay, so we have touched on this in other years. California is 3 hours earlier than us. Yes. How about Florida? Let me actually put up a map. So this is a world map. I know you can't see very well, but here is about us here. Here's Florida. Is there a time difference if you go to like Orlando?
No.
No. Where else have you been that there's not a time change? Miami, so another part of Florida. So my dot covers all of Florida. The Carolinas, which are in this general vicinity. Pennsylvania, this general vicinity. Which say? I just can't hear you. Vermont, this general vicinity up in this way. I think Wisconsin, you change your time.
What about Virginia?
Virginia, you do not change your time in Virginia.
Tennessee.
Alabama, I think you do.
Ohio,
Ohio. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Tennessee.
Japan.
I didn't know.
Sorry, I can't fully say that.
Don't listen to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you put it on Shane? You didn't do anything.
Alabama is, you do change your time
What
zone.
about Tennessee?
Tennessee, some of Tennessee you do, some of Tennessee you don't. So I'm not gonna include that on the map we're looking at.
Georgia.
Okay, hang on. So what do you notice about all these places you do not change? They're all around the same longitude. So remember, lines of longitude go this way. And these dots are all pretty darn close. Yes, and I will talk about that in 1 second. So the very top here is I want to put the review bullet. We already did this in class. We did this the compare and contrast table back a few pages ago, but same longitude equals same time. So that is, I didn't put a line for that, but I would like you to include that. It's really important. If you're on the same longitude, you're the same time zone. Or I'm sorry, you're the same time.
What about the North Pole?
I don't know. I know what you're asking. I don't know. Mr. D's got Google. He's checking it out. But that is a really good question.
Thank you.
All right. So let's take a look at these time zones. So I have them. What map was I just using? This one?
No, the one with Google.
I have it in my notes too, but apparently it's not that one. Oh man, my phone is playing Kids Bop from back, no, Katy Perry for some reason. Not sure how I managed that. All right, so I will go to this one because I don't know where my notes actually went. So here's a map of the United States showing the time zones. Now, I did say same longitude, same time zone. So one line of longitude that goes near us is about, whoa, I'm a little off, but that's us. That's about the 79-degree longitude line, maybe around 80, either way. How can all of these places be in the same time zone? Because time zones are actually 15 degrees apart. So it's not as simple as just one line, but in general, from here to here is about 15 degrees of longitude. Because the time zones, the up and down, every 15 degrees is a new time zone. It doesn't make perfect straight lines because they did accommodate some cities and some towns to make sure like all of Yorkshire would be in the same time zone. That's why like they kind of don't make a perfect line. They maybe make all of a county the same time zone. It's not absolutely perfectly straight up and down. But in general, they're about 15 degrees apart. So you can see that the United States has 1, 2, 3, 4 different time zones. The one we're in, and then they change as you go across. Cody said California is 3 hours behind. So if it is 1:43 now here, what time do you think it is here? One more time zone over.
1 hour and a half.
Just an hour. So they go by even hours. So everybody is exactly an hour apart. So here, if it's 1:43 in this time zone, $12:43, good. Then 11:43, and then 10:43 in California and this whole blue time zone. So 3 hours ahead of us. Behind us, I just said the wrong words. They're 3 hours behind us. So you can kind of see if you've been places. Where else have you guys been? So Cody knows about California. What do you know about? You said Wisconsin. So Wisconsin is 1 hour later, earlier in the day from us. So they're 1 hour behind us.
change automatically.
Your phones, as long as you have it like allowed to change, you can prevent them from changing. But I think they're set up to change on their own. You've been to Kentucky, so parts of Kentucky are the same as us, and some of them are an hour behind us. Yeah, and you didn't have to change your clock, did you? No. My parents literally right now are in Oregon with my brother. They texted me last night at 11:38 PM. I had been in bed for almost 2 hours. I was not too happy with them. Because they didn't get their time. Well, wouldn't have been you are or me? It wasn't midnight for them. It was 11:43 for me. So it was 11:43, 10:43, 9:43, 8:43 for them. So it was a normal acceptable time for them. It was not for me. They actually did it to me a couple on their way out too, and then got mad at me when I woke them up the next morning. But I did it on purpose. Because they texted me late, so I texted them early. I mean like that. Got them back, it felt good. Good, I'm glad you appreciate my meanness.
Yep.
All right, so let's practice with this. So in general, what I like to remember is if you go west, you go earlier in time. Like, it's almost like you go back in time, like you change the clocks and you go back in time, like back to the olden days. Have any of you ever seen like an old Western movie?
Yeah.
Like, you know, like the John Wayne style ones, the old cowboy movies. And if you haven't, you can ignore my statements, but in old Westerns, it's like olden days. Even if it was like made today, an old Western would be representing the olden days. Like cowboys and Indians and horses and tumbleweeds and doing duels in the road where you do 10 paces out and then you shoot whoever wins is the winner, you know, who doesn't die.
Whoever doesn't die.
Yeah, whoever doesn't die wins. That's back in the olden days. That's what I like to remember when I think of time zones.
Don't pretty much that loses, I think it was.
No, in a duel they didn't. So if they go west, you go back in time is what I'm trying to say here. Like, so you go from being 1 to 12 to 11 to 10, you go back in time if you go out west. It doesn't matter if you're in the United States or the whole world. If you go west, you go earlier in time. If you go east, it's later in time.
Anime is just like a whole day time.
No, because they're east of us. Yep. So here, let me get the map of the world. So anytime you go east, so over to Japan, they're going to be later in the day. They get marked. So it's later in the day. So it's later tomorrow, like almost tomorrow for them.
So what I was thinking was, if you go on both sides, on west side of the States, you get over to Japan.
Yeah. So you cross the international date line in that case, and it changes days then. All right, so let's get this into our notes. Yeah, it does get a little, and if you overthink it, you start to hurt your brain, or at least I do. There's what? For them, it's basically Tuesday. Sorry, it's only Monday today. I know, sorry about that. All right, on the top of page 16, where it says Earth, I'd like you to finish the sentence and say that Earth rotates at a rate of 15 degrees every hour. Right on the top of page 16, Earth rotates 15 degrees per hour. So where did I get that number? I took 360. Hey guys, why does 360 sound familiar to you? It's a full circle or a full spin. So it takes the Earth 24 hours to make a full spin. So that's where 15 comes in. If I take 360 and divide it by 24, you get 15. And that's where they decided to put their lines of longitude, is every 15 degrees. That makes there be 15 degrees every hour. Okay, when you're done writing, can you grab your reference tables? Page 5, please. Page 5 is the map we looked at last week with the lines of latitude and longitude. We drew them in. I want you to look at the lines of longitude. On that map, what do they go up by? Lines of longitude. They go up by 20s. Here's the 0 line. The next line over is the 20, then the 40, then the 60, then the 80. So can we do time zones on this map? Not really, not easily at least. Because they go up every 15 degrees. The first thing I want to point out, hey, what's the number 1 rule of earth science?
Gravity.
No, number 1 rule of earth science.
Read.
Read all the words. That includes looking at labels on a map. So if they're asking you to do time zone stuff, you have to go by 15. So this map doesn't work really well for time zones. Could you technically do it? Yes, you would have had to add your own labels. You would have had to estimate where 15 is, and then 30, then 45, then 60's there. That's not super easy. I don't think they would ever make you do that. But they will try to trick you on maps. So always look at what the labels go up by. All right, that was just a side note. Now I want to kind of summarize. So you already have most of this, so don't panic that it's a lot to write. So I already have on the paper the summary. If you go east, so it's already there. If you go east, you're adding, you go ahead 1 hour per meridian. Example, it's later in London. London is actually 5 hours later in the day for us.
Lucky.
So right now it is 6:52 in London.
Well, that kind of sucks. Kind of wish I could think.
Well, I mean, luckily it doesn't just magically change and it goes from being 1 to 6. But yeah, when you're flying to London, not only is it a long flight, because you have to go across the whole Atlantic, but then when you get there, your clock will go 5 hours later in the day. So when you're traveling to London, it seems to take extra. But the good news is when you're flying home, because when you go west of your location, it gets earlier in the day. So your flight will feel like it took 5 hours less.
Interesting.
All right, add that in. I gotta get some water.
Yeah. Wait. Yeah.
So this concept, like, what do you need to know? You need to be able to count and going in the right direction. So if you're going east, it gets later in the day, later for London. So if you're going towards London, it gets later. If you're going west, just like I was saying, you go back west, you go back in time.
Back.
Yep, back west, back in time. And you do then have to remember, they change every 15, so double check your maps. So we have a map. In fact, you have a map on page 17. So maybe open your packet so you can see both pages. Don't rip this page out this time, because then you'll be losing the back of your page, and then that would be bad. So just open it up so you can see. Nope, right here. Right there.
Oh.
Yep, sorry. So just open your packet so you can see both pages 17 and 16 at the same time. So you have this same map on page 17. And there's what? Well, how many questions at the bottom? 5. There's 5 questions. It's numbered. there's 5 questions we have to do using this map. Let's take a look at this map and answer question 1. According to this map, what time is it in New York?
It's clock.
So not according to the clock, according to this map. Here's New York, and imagine that dot covering that whole line right there. According to this map, hey, it's labeled. Okay, so where did he get that? Here's the line for New York, and it's on 10 a.m. So according to this map, it is 10 a.m. in New York. That's the answer to number 1. Write it down. According to this map, what time is it in New York State? It's 10 a.m. Just read it right off the map. You want it to be 10 a.m.? You want to go through the whole day again? Or do you mean 10 a.m. tomorrow? According to this map, then, what time would it be in San Francisco? So you go to San Francisco and you're like, what the hey, it's not labeled. 7. How'd you do that? Tyler, how'd you do that? Or do you just know off the top of your head? Did anybody know how to figure it out off of here, not doing it off the top of your head? We just count back. Remember, when we go back west, we go back in time. So 10 a.m., 9 a.m., 8 a.m., 7 a.m. The next line over would be 6 a.m., but San Francisco's on the 7 a.m. line. Yes, if you know off the top of your head, it was 3 hours different than New York, you could do that, but not everybody knows that. All right, question 3 is going to change it up a little bit. It says, what if it's 6 p.m. in Bolingrad? So I'm going to label that Bolingrad, right there, 6 p.m. They want to know what time would it be in London? And here's the dot for London. So we want to know what time it is there.
8 p.m.
How'd you do this? Arden, how'd you do it? Count it back. The key is that we are west. So going this way is still going west. So it's not just like West United States, it's west of where you are. As long as you're going west, it goes back in time. So 6, 5, 4, 3. It is 3 a.m. or p.m. in London? PM, because it's 6 p.m. here, it's 3 a.m. here. Did you write that down? All right, now we're changing it up and going to Osaka. Now, by the way, the dot for Osaka is right here. It's right before the word Osaka. So they're saying, according to this map, what time would it be? And I go up and I'm like, shoot, there's no label again. How do you know it was midnight?
Forward.
You go forward. So again, we're going east now. East is 10, and then 11 p.m., but 12 what? AM or PM if it's midnight? AM. Midnight is AM. Okay, that's okay. That's one way to avoid the mistake, the issue. You could write midnight, but please know that midnight is AM. It's when it switches to AM. Now, will this be 12 AM today, tomorrow, or yesterday compared to us in New York? This is 12 AM. It's the start of tomorrow. So today, or yeah, it's already tomorrow in Osaka.
Yeah.
And then they finally, the last one is Nome over here. So Nome's right here.
4 a.m.
I go up, there's no label, but I'd already started to label 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4 a.m.
Today.
4 a.m. today. So at 10 a.m. for us, it's early morning, 4 a.m. in Nome. Probably still sleeping unless you have something that you had to get up early for. How, you get up for school at 4 a.m.? Okay, yeah, I mean, that's a little excessive. You do? Sometimes? Okay. I'm definitely still sleeping. All right. How do you guys kind of comfortable with time zone? Okay, we'll practice more on them. I am ending class. That means you have over 10 minutes to start your homework. It is not a request. It is not a suggestion. It is an order. Pages 14 and 15 are for homework. You have a test coming up on this stuff. I highly recommend you try, especially for these next 10 minutes while Mr. D and I are here to help. Try, get some done now. I think somebody's out. But let me see if somebody's really not out. Nobody's out, somebody just forgot to turn off the light.